Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Daincast. We've got another special game here from our friend Razerblader, also known as Raza, also known as Red Dragon's Razerblader. He is the top Terran from the UK, and he is playing against a Russian Zerg known as Vanya. You might have heard of Vanya. He's a very, very strong Russian Zerg player. This is in a tournament. I don't actually know which tournament this is from, but Raza sent me this replay because I asked him to send me some of his best replays, and he's very, very happy with this one. So we're going to have a look at how he manages to deal with Vanya. Remember, this is on the old patch as well, where Zerg was very, very strong. And so Raza's going to have to think on his feet to deal with the shenanigans of this Zerg player. Does go for a barracks first and a quick gas afterwards. Very standard Reaper expand from Raza, and a pretty normal 17 hatch or 16 hatch from Vanya as well. Looking to be a macro-oriented game from both of these players. I love to see what Raza comes up with in his TvZs, because he's got so many different styles. He's really, really good at picking specific builds for specific matches. So it's like watching him at an epic LAN play against Risky. Even though he ended up losing the series against Risky last time I saw him, he takes maps off of him, which is very impressive considering how dominant Risky has been. So he always manages to pick really great builds for the specific maps, and those builds don't always get off the ground because of certain really aggressive strategies from Zerg players. But you can see if Raza's plans start going according to the way he wants them to happen, he starts to hit a stride and he can just absolute dominate just about anybody on the planet. So I really like to see Raza in that mid game just start dropping everywhere. He's very, very intelligent at dropping where the enemy's units aren't. He's not the kind of Terran that just drops everywhere all the time. He's the kind of Terran that waits until your army is in a really bad spot and then drops in a really awkward position for you to deal with. So he's very, very good at stretching his opponents thin. And I'm guessing we're going to see a lot of that in this game. So he's going to send his Reaper out. He does have his SCV scouting here just to block the third base, and he's going to send the Reaper in, as is tradition, to see if he can block this drone from getting a base down as well. So obviously an annoying thing that most Zergs have to deal with on a daily basis, and this is going to be no different here. This annoying little pentagon path from this SCV is going to be very, very annoying to deal with, and the Reaper actually going for the Zerglings here as well is going to get a few of them for his troubles and then pop down to see this base here. The SCV's still got quite a bit of health here, and he might actually be able to get this drone without doing anything. He's going to block the drone from taking the gas with his SCV. Nice little maneuver from Raza, and he gets the drone and keeps the SCV alive as well. So nice little bit of micro from Raza. Really a nice moral victory at this stage in the game. You're just preventing that Zerg from getting his game plan going. Still no third base from Vanya at this stage. He does have his Zergling speed on the way, and he is making a couple of extra queens, so it's not going to be actually one extra queen, so it's not going to be the end of the world. But he still doesn't have a third base down. This is really putting a wrench in his engine of trying to get anything going here. So Raza's got his second base here, already turning into an orbital command. He's going to be saturating this shortly. He's got Hellions on the way. He's even got his starport. And all that the Zerg has is a bunch of Zerglings and not even Zergling speed finish. So Raza really being dominant at this stage in the game. Has to make a few Zerglings, has to force these queens out. But in the end, Raza is going to escape just 10 seconds before the Zergling speed finishes. So really nice timing there from Raza, realizing this is the most I'm going to get out of this Reaper. It's time to go back and rejoin with my Hellions. Try and do a little bit of a poke here once I have a little bit more strength behind me. He's got 2 more Hellions on the way. Nice Overlord spread from Vanya, spotting all the places where these Hellions could come in, and he's starting to spread this creep out. He's got his third base on the way now, so Vanya's recovering the best that he can do, but obviously he's a step behind Raza now because of that really annoying hatch block in the early game. And a couple of Marines being made here just to block this Overlord, but the Overlord is going to scout the non-attachment starport. He's going to see the early stim, so he's going to know there's going to be a stim push of some kind coming, and he's probably suspecting that there's going to be a Liberator here. This is unlikely to be a medevac at this stage in the game, because there just isn't that much use for it, but you never know. So he's going to probably make a Spore here at some point. Yeah, and a nice anti-Liberator position here. So nice read there from Vanya. Not overcommitting to the Spores, just making 1 or 2 here, and actually going for a fairly quick Spire here. to shut down the mid-game aggression of Raza. Knows he needs to do something to get himself back in the game, and Spire can be a great way of doing that. Can shut down that mid-game push if you can just overwhelm it, and you can even get some harassment done to get yourself in the economic advantage as well. So this Liberator from Raza is not going in the obvious position here. It's actually going to go all the way to the other side here, which is where the Spore is not. So nice little read on where the Spore is going to be from Raza. Does get a probe for his trouble. Meanwhile, poking in with the Hellion Reaper Force here, but the Queens are in position here. Does manage to escape with this Liberator here, so nice little bit of multi-prong aggression here, controlling the Hellions while continually sieging up this Liberator in awkward positions, not overcommitting with the Hellions, but he is going to scout the Spire because of his aggression in the main there. So nice little bit of scouting through attacking, and keeps all of his Hellions alive, and he realizes that Vanya doesn't actually have all that many drones. He went into the third base, and there's only 4 or 5 drones there, so Raza's going to be suspicious here. He's going to know that it's a relatively low economy from Vanya at this stage. He's not over-droning, and so attacking right now might not be the best idea, and he knows that there's probably going to be a lot of Mutalisks on the way shortly. Hellion still looking for positions to do damage here, just forcing these Queens back and forth. This can be really annoying to deal with as a Zerg player. You can never just leave your Queens in one spot. You always have to be moving them around. And he's going to potentially just get these Creep Tumors here. Nice little snipes from Raza, just forcing the Queens on one side and then killing the Creep Tumors on the other one. A lot of Zerglings have been made here, but as long as these Hellions get off creep, they shouldn't be in too bad of a position. A few of them do go down. Not the best trade there for Raza, but he has gotten a few Creep Tumors, and he's keeping Vanya honest, so I'm not sure if he scouted the angle of these Mutalisks here. He doesn't have the watchtowers in the middle of the map, and he is looking to take his third base now. But he knows that there's a Spire, so he will be having turrets built preemptively to make sure that there's not going to be too much harassment. And he does have a fairly large amount of Marines here, which should be able to deflect these Mutalisks should they engage into his main base. A little bit of harassment is going to go on here from the Mutalisk. A little bit of damage here on the SCVs and the Gas Geyser, but no permanent damage is done. Nothing a little repair can't fix. His engineering bays are in a little bit of an awkward position here, but as long as he is vigilant with his Marine control, he should be absolutely fine against this. Probably would like to have a couple of medevacs with this just to heal up the damage that these Marines are taking from the splash and from the stimming. Does have a medevac join them. Has a nice little bit of tanks here in Hellions to protect his third base from any kind of Zergling run by, and he's got another group of Marines with a medevac here as well. So this is not a big enough group of Mutalisks to do too much damage to Raza at this stage, as long as he is staying home. It's when he moves out that he might have issues, but he's got a few turrets, and he's got his rally of units set back home as well, so he should be in not too big of a trouble whatsoever. Now Raza is moving out onto the map, and the Mutalisks are going to use this as the time to engage at the third base. Do kill a few SCVs and stop the supply depots from building, but it's not the end of the world. Raza realizing that he's going to have to push here really hard. He's got a nice timing here. All the enemy has is a bunch of Mutalisks just now morphing the Banelings, but he's got quite a few tanks here. Nice little bit of preemptive spread here. Does engage the Mutalisks as quickly as possible. Leaving the Hellions on the front, the Hellbats on the front line is a nice little move here. Going to force an awkward engagement from these Banelings, but these splits from Raza are absolutely insane. There's really not a good angle for the Zergling to commit on this, especially not before losing this fourth base. Finally does commit to the fight. The Mutalisks come in the back, but nice little splits from Raza. Do get quite a great trade there, but I think everything's going to get cleaned up from Raza in the end. Even flies the medevacs out, so a nice little save of those gas units. But overall, the base stays alive for Vanya, and the medevacs stay alive, but most of the bio is dead, and all the tanks have died as well. A little bit of a rally here from Raza to try and start picking off some of these Mutalisks, but overall, this is looking pretty scary for Raza. He's only got a handful of Marines and a tank left at home. He doesn't even have his wall finished at his third base, and the fourth base of Vanya did survive. Vanya on a relatively low drone count still, only on 66, not at his full-fledged saturation here as much as he might want. Raza on 64 workers himself, but Vanya now going up to 73 workers. Now he's going to be looking to go into the late game stages of this game, and Raza is looking to be on the defense once again. He's only got this handful of Marines here. It's going to be awkward for him to defend for a little while, but he does have his 2-2 started. Might be able to hit a strong 2-2 timing as well. Is starting to make Thors to add to this composition, as they're going to help a lot against the Mutalisks and the Banelings. Going to give you some staying power in those longer fights. If they manage to survive, going to force the Banelings to hit. I don't know how many Banelings it takes to take down a Thor, but it's definitely too many. It's definitely not an efficient trade. Nice little bit of harassment here. Does get the Gas Geyser. these Mutalisks. A nice little Mutalisk control from Vanya. Doesn't lose too many Mutas. Has kept these alive pretty much since they've been made, and they've just been doing little bits of nibbling damage to Raza as the game goes on. And this is kind of what you want to do with Mutalisks. You don't want to overcommit. You don't want to be losing those. You want to be snowballing with those Mutalisks. A nice little Thor drop from Raza here is going to make things pretty difficult here. It's going to move out his units with the Thor. It's going to give them a little bit more speed there. And could potentially drop these Thors on top of these Mutalisks to get a little bit more damage done here. A few volleys of the Thor's projectiles do a ton of damage to these Mutalisks, doing the bonus to light and doing the AoE on those clumped up Mutalisks. Obviously a very, very strong anti-Mutalisk tool in the Thor. You know, much better than something like an Archon, just because they've got the extra range as well and the extra health. So definitely a nice choice there from Raza. So Raza is even getting his vehicle upgrades. He's nearly hitting his 2-2. Will probably be wanting to do a move out once he has this 2-2 complete. But these Mutalisks are not going to make it easy for him. They're going to fly right back in as soon as he's moving out. A little bit of harassment on these engineering base. He definitely doesn't want to lose these. He's going to have to repair with all his SCVs. He needs to keep this upgrade alive. This would be really devastating to lose. It would reset his whole timing. He's going to lose quite a few SCVs as a result. Does manage to split off most of his Marines to keep pushing up the front and split and flank around the back. It's going to be a little bit awkward for him to deal with. Has a decent amount of Marines here, but I don't know if he has that critical mass of Marines that he needs, and he loses so many workers here. 22 workers being killed for Vanya in the end, but he keeps his engineering base alive and long enough to get his 2-2 timing, and he's even got his army out on the map with 3 Thors and a few tanks. This is going to actually be a scary, scary push to deal with for Vanya. Especially if he's on a Lin Bane composition, these Thors are absolutely worth their weight in gold. Nice little splits from Raza are going to fight these units back in from the Widow Mines, and the Thors protecting the tanks are going to make it really difficult for these Mutas to get any kind of a trade done. Nice little control from Raza, engages on the whole front, lifting up some of those Marines into the medevacs and surviving with almost everything. Nice little bit of micro from Raza, pulling the wounded Thors to the back line, and Raza's push is still alive. He's pushing it down onto this creep. He's still got a fair amount of Widow Mines. He's still got his tank. He's still got those powerful mech units surviving here, and a fair amount of Marines and Marauders to provide the raw damage that he needs to burst down this Zerg army. Zerg is looking like he wants to go for a counter attack here with these Zerglings, but I don't know if he's going to be able to do too much. There's a bunker, there's lots of wall, and there's lots of Widow Mines here left behind. So Raza might take a little bit of damage from this, actually. Nice little angle that Vanya finds, but he's going to lose his 4th base as a result. And so Raza is going to need to clean this up with his reinforcements at home while keeping this push going. This is extremely difficult to pull off here while you're pushing on 2 fronts, having to deal with so many Zerglings in the main base while dealing with your frontal attack. So it looks like he's going to retreat after doing the damage. He's killed 2 bases, and he's going to go back and try and defend his base, but he's lost so many workers. He's down to 30 workers now, 26 workers, 52 workers being killed and counting for Vanya. Insanely nice counterattack from Vanya is going to do so much damage, and Vanya's managed to stay on 77 workers. He's lost bases, but he hasn't lost workers, and this is going to put him in a completely dominant position against Raza. He's put Raza down to 15 workers, and Raza is basically all in at this stage. He's even managing to save these 2 Thors. He's going to want to repair these quickly, but this is a really, really difficult position to be in as the Terran player. You just don't have the economy to push back here. He does have a decent army advantage. He's got 86 army supply to the 46 of Vanya, realizing that Vanya has spent a lot of army in this counterattack. He traded it for economy, and so now Raza does have one advantage, which is his massive army. He's going to push on the side where Vanya's army is, as well as his mining base. So he needs to get a really great trade here to make sure this happens for him. He still has double the army supply of Vanya, but it's closing the gap as time goes on. These Banelings being so cost effective here, so annoying to deal with as Raza dealing with. He does lift up most of his army, but he's lost so much, and now his army advantage has been whittled down. He had over twice the army supply of Vanya, and now he's up to only a 20 army supply lead here. Meanwhile, though, he is taking his 4th base and turning it into a planetary, so it's going to be a little bit of stability for Raza at this stage. It's been a while coming, but finally he has his 4th base mining, and Vanya himself has gone up to 6 bases here, which is absolutely terrifying. A Zerg on 6 bases with 75 workers. If you're a Terran with only 26 workers, Not really sure how Raza can get himself back into this game, especially with these constant counterattacks of a roaming Zergling, spotting everything here and looking for positions to do damage. I do like how this base is completely locked down, though. He's got a Widowmine and a bunker and a turret here. This is going to give him a lot of staying power on this base. But Vanya, no slouch on his own. He's got his units split all over the place. He's got Corruptors now watching the dead space near his 5th base. And he's got Marine Marauder at his 4th base here, but a couple of Widowmines managed to go in, but not a lot of damage done. Raza's only killed 15 workers this game, and he's lost so many, so he needs to stabilize, maybe hit his 3-3 timing, and play this game as slowly as possible. He just needs to survive against whatever wave of forces Vanya has while maintaining some kind of counterattack damage of his own. But I would not envy Raza at this stage in the game. This is very, very difficult. He does have a line of bio moving out across the map. A scan is going to kill some of these creep tumors, but his army is looking pretty sad at this point. Really nothing compared to the overwhelming Zergling force of Vanya. But Vanya instead goes for the counterattack once again with a large amount of Zergling. He's going to keep Banelings and Corruptors back home to deal with this. I don't know if I agree with this position. Although the attack did work last time, Raza's going to be a little more ready this time. Has a few Widowmines, has his rally set back home, and he's going to be able to actually do the damage on the main front here now that Vanya's maybe overcommitted to this counterattack once again. Lots of Widowmines and bio for Raza with nice pre-splits are going to mean he's going to get a nice position on this, even attacking the other 5th base of Vanya. But Raza's losing absolutely everything back home. The Zerglings are all over his production. The rallies have been disrupted, and now it's going to be really difficult for him to stabilize back at home, especially with all of these. But a few big Widowmine hits are going to help out a lot. I think they even have drilling claws, so these Widowmines are going to help a lot at cleaning up these Zerglings. He's only going to need a few big hits from them to clean everything up. And meanwhile, Raza's army is looking pretty scary now. Up to 93 army supply to the 50 of Vanya. It's going to give him a nice pushing power at this front here. Lots of Banelings going down, and the Corruptors being pushed back. All he's on is Corrupted Banelings. The Banelings are being morphed in at the last second, but this base is going to go down again, and Raza's suddenly looking like he's in a pretty decent position here. He's going to kite, he's going to run all the way back to the Widowmines for safety, and this is going to allow him to continue the momentum of this push, and now he's stabilized back home, and Raza's looking like he's in a great position. The 4th and the 5th bases of Vanya has gone down. He's on to 1 or 2 mining bases. 44 workers are mining at this base, but this is complete overkill. This 80 worker lead of Vanya really doesn't count for much when he's only on 1 or 2 mining bases, and Raza's still not saturated his 4th base here. He just doesn't have the amount of SCVs he'd like for this, but he is dropping his mules there, but he's on a very low economy. He's just straggling back and doing everything he can to keep himself in this game, but these drilling claws, Widowmines, worth their weight in gold here, gonna get some absolutely massive hits on these Zerglings. I can't believe the amount of damage. So many Zerglings just melting instantly to these drilling claws mines, and suddenly Raza's in an amazing position, over double the army supply, pushing into the 4th base, and he's going to get this base. All he's got is 1 Ultralisk and a Corruptor. Raza's Widowmines worth their weight in gold here. He needs to bring these back with his army, but he's definitely content to protect his flank here. Now, so many workers going down for Vanya, forced to pull all the drones off this base. He's rallying Zerglings frantically into this fight, but I'm not really sure this is going to be enough. He can't rely on Zerglings. He needs Ultralisks or something, but he just doesn't have the economy anymore. Raza has ground his economy back down to the pulp. He's dragged him down into the dirt with him. He said, if you're going to destroy my economy, I'm going to destroy yours. Only 1 mining base now for Vanya. He hasn't retaken these, and now he's in a really desperate position. He's got half the army supply, and he doesn't have anything that trades well against Widowmines. I don't even think he has an Overseer with his army. And he can't really afford to make one either. There are so many Widowmines for Razerblader. We're absolutely punching so much above their weight with those drilling claws. And even with the counterattack here, the Marine Marauder is going to clean it up, and it's going to be a victory for Raza.